Hello, I'm Brian Eno, President of Stop the War Coalition and part of the campaign to free Julian Assange. Julian is still in Belmarsh prison. He's effectively been a prisoner for 11 years, being punished for the crime of releasing some embarrassing information about the American military in Iraq. As you know, the American military has always sought to present itself as a kind of humanitarian organization, something like World Health Organization with guns, and they don't like it when any story to the contrary of that impression comes out. Julian is in Belmarsh waiting now for the extradition process that the American government has argued for so long to be abandoned. The English court last year refused the American request for extradition. Everybody knows that extradition for Julian to America will mean the rest of his life in a high security prison. So it's a death sentence in a way. The British court last year refused that appeal for extradition, but of course the Americans immediately appealed it, so Julian is still in Belmarsh. The point is, this isn't only about Julian. We want him free, of course. He did what a journalist is supposed to do. He uncovered the truth and published it. But it's not only about Julian. If this goes through, if a country can reach into another country, pluck out one of its journalists and try them on their own terms, this is a very, very bad sign for the future. We really don't want a future like that, where journalists feel even more threatened than they already are. We've seen an erosion of this kind of civil liberties in the last few years as various authoritarian populist governments have appeared. We really have to stop this process, I think. This evening, we have a coming together of a group of extraordinary writers who've decided to speak out about Julian. His story has largely disappeared from the newspapers, but he's still there in prison and the story is still very much alive. I'm grateful to this group of wonderful writers who've decided to make a statement of some kind of public response to this, and I look forward to hearing them. I'll read their names in order of appearance. The title of each piece will appear under the writer's name as they read, and each will be under 5 minutes. The writers are A.L. Kennedy, Charles Harris, Jan Wolfe with Matt Devereaux, Richard Bradbury, Marina Warner, Robert Ilson, George Surtees, Michael Rosen, and Zoe Aronson with Gilles Madin. By the end of the event, you'll have heard 11 voices. That's one person for each year that Julian has been under this duress.
With gratitude from the military-industrial complex, we thank you for the sacrifices you will make. Be permanent aware for further notice of our needs, and never lift the stones, and never look beneath the stones, and never ask to know our light-em-up secrets, our money pit secrets, our blood and soil secrets. Whatever flag we fly requires your worship. That is all. We thank you for the ignorance that is your bliss. For breath your drowning lungs will not prove fit enough to hold, and never move the stones, and never film beneath the stones, and never seek to know our dead children's secrets, our baton charge secrets, our hoods and chains secrets. Whatever lie we tell requires your worship, that is all. We thank you for the neck that you will give our knee. Your blessing is our righteous observation. and our strength, and never touch the stones, and never see beneath the stones, and never fight to know our choking cell secrets, our headshot red secrets, our torn girl red secrets. Whatever truth we build requires your worship, that is all. We thank you for the head that you will turn away from all the joys we find in demonstrations of our power, and never kick the stones, and never write about the stones, and never start to know our dying seas secrets, our dying air secrets, our dying earth secrets. Whatever grave we dig requires your worship, that is all. We thank you for your faith in every myth we make, and how you punch yourself at every whistle or command, and never speak of stones, and never sing about the stones, and never work to know our cattle prod secrets, our bedroom deal secrets, our master race secrets, our dirty flag secrets, our blood fountain secrets, our end times freak secrets, our sick old man secrets, our human skin secrets, our birth defect secrets, our by design secrets, our screaming room secrets, our wonderful secrets. Just tuck yourselves away beneath your stones and fall asleep like little good-night kids. Appropriate authority will carve your names, define your meaning, use and failings in due course. To those still obstinate alive, we always say, what has not been forbidden is obligatory. That is all.
How many people who know don't say? How many people who say don't say it all? How many people who say it all don't get heard? How many people who get heard get rubbed out? How many people who get rubbed out get forgotten? How many people remember the ones they want us to forget?
Back in the days when we were allowed to go to football matches, it was normal to hear the crowd chant, "Who's the bastard in the black?" Nobody likes the bastard who blows the whistle. If there are 30,000 in the stands, you can be pretty sure that 29,996 hate him or possibly her. With luck, the three referees' assistants might be on the side of the bastard in the black with the whistle, though you can never be sure. Of course, nowadays with VAR, that might be who's the bastard in front of a monitor 200 miles away wearing deep jeans and a t-shirt, but it doesn't trip so easily off the tongue. Nevertheless, even though the video assistant whistle is only a virtual one, you can be sure that it's hated just as much. Nobody likes the bastard who blows the whistle against them. Certainly not the cheats, the ones who'll hack your legs away from you as soon as look at you, or help the ball into the net with the hand of God. It takes courage to blow. Hated if you blow the whistle and hated if you don't. It takes courage to run into the middle of the pitch knowing you'll be insulted and vilified, knowing you earn less than anyone else on the pitch, knowing it won't be your name in the back pages unless you're very unlucky, knowing half those 30,000 will shout abuse at half your decisions and the other half at the remainder. To blow the whistle is to judge. So we insult the whistleblowers. We disrespect them. We call them traitors. We try to change the rules. We call them illegal. We call them terrorists. Anything to avoid facing the truth. There's an ancient Japanese myth of the creation of the world. When the gods decided to make the earth, they created two divine beings, one male and one female, and gave them a beautiful jeweled spear. The two divine beings, the male and the female, took the spear and went to stand on the floating bridge of heaven between heaven and earth. With their jeweled spear, they stirred the waters beneath, creating a vortex. And as they stirred, drops of salty water fell from the spear, creating the first land. Salt water makes me think of tears. But what kind of tears? Were they tears of joy or of sorrow? Maybe both. But also they would have been the tears of truth, of reality, of the basis of all things. Truth is the earth on which we stand. Sometimes when the truth is told, we weep for joy, and sometimes for sorrow. But it is our foundation. As well as writing novels, I study the Japanese art of Aikido, a martial art. Neither is possible without truth. Certainly in Aikido, you learn quickly that nothing works unless you have a strong platform to work off, both physical and mental. No matter what you believe about your ability, your strength, your technique, you'll learn the truth soon enough. And when you hit the ground, that truth can hurt. Reality is tough. Reality is hard. To survive, your feet, your body, your mind must be rooted in that reality. But reality is always changing. So we need constantly to be reminded of what it is. We need people who tell us the truth. I have searched through the rules of football, and nowhere can I find it said we're permitted to foul and cheat, to ignore the referee. I've searched international law, and nowhere can I find it said we're permitted to commit war crimes, to ignore the whistleblower. A whistle weighs 30 grams, but few are strong enough to pick it up. Few are still brave enough to blow it. It takes courage to blow a whistle that might cost you your freedom or your life. Easier to close your eyes. Easier to join the crowd. Easier to chant, "Who's the bastard in the black?"
A month of Mondays. Monday, April the 5th, 2021, Easter Monday, the 11th anniversary of the WikiLeaks film of the shooting of civilians from a US gunship. They were gathered on a pavement in Baghdad, these civilians. Easter Monday, for many too, symbolic of rising from the dead, but not from Baghdad pavements. The raising of the dead man in the Easter story, Jesus Christ, the dissident, was hardly heard of at his trial 2 millennia ago. Now he's known to everybody, whether you worship him or not. How do you know about you, Julian Assange? Would I be blaspheming to point to similarity? I expect so, and I don't care. There's no inquisition to come for me as one came for you. The Pope sent you a kind and personal message in jail. A jail in England, the bastion of human rights, home of the level playing field, home of the finger, pointing at corrupt regimes elsewhere. Easter is also a part of the division of the year, essential for human happiness. It helps a year slip by. It helps a year build. Lockdown may have been our cross to bear, but lock up. As we creep out of our COVIDian lairs, liars claim the truth, and your suffering continues. Monday, April the 12th. Scrolling back through old emails, I find one called Plinth People. It's to do with an old campaign, who to put on the 4th plinth in Trafalgar Square. You should now be on it, Julian Assange. Edith Cavell, tortured by the Nazis, is just around the corner. We carved her name with pride. Monday, April the 19th. I feel I should leave off the feelings a bit and drop the analogies and find a fact. So here's one. This is Article 3, Paragraph 4 of the UK-US Extradition Treaty. Extradition should not be granted if the offence for which extradition is required is a political offence. Well, of course you offended them politically, as they offend us with their wars. But any human being who knew what you knew and didn't tell would offend me and fail as a human being in my book. In fact, it's an offence to destroy such information, so you, Julian, had no choice but to publish it. There were Reuters journalists in that gunship in Baghdad, filming it.
Good shoot. Good shoot. All those individuals are now disengaged. We fucked all those individuals. Nice. right through the windscreen. Nice. Hey, they just drove over a body. Huh? They got a wounded girl in there. It's their fault for bringing their kids into battle. That's right.
So why are you in jail, Julian Assange, and not them? Because you sought refuge from a charge for something for which charges had been withdrawn, but that would have allowed extradition to the USA. The military-industrial complex want to get you and throw away the key. Monday, April 26th. I'd love to hear you on Oprah. You'll be asked to share, not tell, to share your truth. But would you be invited? Maybe your social skills aren't all that, and they'd have taken a dive in prison. They're making an example of you, Julian Assange, and know that in freeing you, they free the truth. So journalists, behave yourselves, or it will behove us to crucify you. May the 1st, May Day. Different things to different people. So put your hand on a good book, any good book, and say, I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
This is, obviously, an historical tale, because this sort of thing doesn't happen anymore. Some places, so they say, are harder to get into than they are to get out of, so they say. And I used to agree. One place, drove all the way there, 100 miles up the motorway. No record of you, sir. No, sorry about that. At least no, sorry for your trouble. Just a look. And then 5 minutes in a lay-by banging the steering wheel. So the next time, phone calls ahead to make sure. Even then, passport, letter of introduction, no mobile phone, no batteries, no chewing gum, no yeast, and don't forget to keep your pass in view at all times. But on the way out, different shift on the gate, so no idea who I was, but waved on out anyway. Barely even slowed the car as the barrier swung up with the cheery wave goodbye. Harder to get in. Every one of them a different variation on the same tune, but at least this place, the one I'm thinking of now, this place didn't breathe, fuck off, lefty, liberal, bleeding heart, we don't need your sort here, at every single stage of getting in and getting out. Almost helpful. Almost. So there I was, sitting drinking tea in the staff room on the education. I'll call him Samuel for the purposes of this historical tale. You see Samuel? I am. Do you want someone in with you? Well, why would I? Well, he's got a rep, a history. No point in messing me about though. I'm rehabilitation and non-vocational education. Right enough. So, you sure? It's fine. The buzzer's on the wall by the door, as and when. If. Your funeral. It was fine. It always was fine. We talked 2 hours at a time about the healing power of literature. At the end of every session, he shook hands and thanked me. Once, we were talking about Coriolanus, the play. Samuel said the violence of the language fascinated him, the way the characters used words as weapons. I wish, he said, I wish I'd learned to do that instead of... When we shook hands, as we always did, I glanced down at his hand. His grip tightened. You don't need to do that. Good as gold, always golden, when I asked. So why? He's IPP. What? Imprisonment for public protection. Meaning? He was locked up for what he did in the past. Now he's locked up for what he might do in the present. And he'll stay locked up until at some point in the future he's not dangerous anymore. And when will that be? Shrug. When he's deemed by a lawfully constituted body no longer to be a danger to the public. Who are they? Us. Me? It's never been a danger to me. But you're not one of us. The last time I saw him, the veins in his neck, in his forearms, in his forehead were moving under the skin. He'd lost weight. He hadn't shaved or showered. After 15 minutes of Ibsen's An Enemy of the People, he stood up, shoved his hands onto the buzzer and kept it there. The door opened and he walked away. What was that about? Turned down at his parole and licence hearing. Why? An incident. One of the others had a go and he defended himself. Just held the other bloke off. Everyone who saw it said so. But it's an incident. So, no. But that's not right. Right? Right. Justice. It's not. I didn't say it was.
For Julian Assange, a story from the 1001 Nights, The Greek King and Dr. Dubon. The original is much longer and more elaborate, but this is my version in a book called Stranger Magic. The fisherman has managed with his cunning ruse to trick the furious Jinni Sakir back into the copper bottle, and is walking back to the water's edge to throw him back into the sea, when, from within, the Jinni pleads for his life. The fisherman sternly refuses, while the Jinni promises him every blessing. "You are lying," says the fisherman. "Your promises are empty. You and I are like the vizier of King Yunan and Duban, the doctor." "Tell me how we're like them," says the Jinni. In Byzantium, a king who has everything in the world, great riches, loyal followers, and vast armies at his command, falls ill with a disease, a kind of psoriasis, for which none of his physicians or doctors can find a cure. A travelling sage called Duban happens to be passing through the king's territory. When he hears of the king's sickness, he arrays himself in his finest clothes and calls in all submissiveness on the court. When the king receives him, Duban offers to heal him, and the doctor begins his work, renting a house, studying his books. After consulting further, he prepares a mixture, fashions a ball, and into the shaft of a mallet which he has hollowed out, introduces the mixture. The next day he presents the ball and mallet to the king and tells him to go out to the polo field and ride as hard as he can, holding the mallet tight and swinging it vigorously until he's worked up a lather all over his body. The salve in the stick will transpire through his whole frame. Then he's to return to the palace, and after bathing, he will be cured. King Yunan does as the doctor tells him. The following morning, when Duban presents himself at the palace, the king receives him royally, because as soon as he left the baths, he found all traces of his disease had vanished from his body. His skin had become as smooth as pure silver. In his joy and gratitude, King Yunan makes a fuss of Duban, seating him by his side on his ceremonial divan, arraying him in splendid silks, feasting with him, showering him with money and other presents, and giving him his own thoroughbred to ride home. One of the king's viziers looks darkly on these developments. He approaches the king and warns him that he is in danger from someone close. "Speak," says the king. When the vizier names Duban, the king rejects the insinuation angrily and reminds his adviser of the example of King Sindibad, who destroyed his favourite hawk when the bird kept overturning his cup, preventing him from drinking from a stream. But it turned out that a snake was in the tree above, pouring its venom into the water, and the bird had saved Sindibad's life. "You are asking me to do the same," said the king, "and kill the man who has saved me." "If he cured you," insists the vizier, he can kill you as easily. The king is afraid, and the vizier advises him to execute Duban forthwith, before he can spring anything on him. Summoned to the king's presence, in complete ignorance of the fate which lies in store, Duban salutes him with many fervent praise poems. But the king tells him he is going to kill him, as abruptly as that. You are a spy, I've been advised, come to assassinate me, and he orders the executioner to cut off the physician's head. Duban pleads for justice. He compares himself to the crocodile in the fable, but he doesn't proceed to tell that story. There is not enough time left. I shall only rest easy when you are dead, continues King Yunnan. The doctor warns him, if you make me die, God will make you die. But the king remains implacable. The doctor weeps. The hangman binds his eyes and lays his head on the block. One of the courtiers rises and asks that he be spared. The doctor then asks for one last grace, to go back to his house, order his affairs, arrange his burial, and give away his books, especially his medical books. There is in his library one book, he adds, which he particularly wants to present to the king. It is full of a myriad secrets, one of which is especially precious. He gives the king chapter and verse how to discover him. He gives the king chapter and verse how to discover it, and tells him that after his head has been cut off, the king should place it in a basin with a layer of coal at the bottom to staunch the blood, and it will answer any question the king puts to it. Your severed head will speak to me, the king marvels. The following day, the court reassembles for the execution in their full splendour. The Dr. Duban returns from his house with a book and a box of powder which he sprinkles on a dish, telling the king again to place his head on the dish once it has been cut off, as the powder will staunch the flow of blood. The doctor is executed. Yunnan wants to open the book, but he finds that its pages are stuck together. He licks his finger and turns the first page, then a second, then a third. They can only be separated with great difficulty, and Yunnan can see nothing written on them, so he keeps turning them, as the head on the dish urges him to keep doing, in order to find the place he wants. The king continues, but at the end of a very short time, an evil has entered his entire body. The pages are poisoned. The king falls into convulsions and cries out, I am poisoned, I am poisoned. Then the head of the physician Duban recites another poem about the workings of destiny, on the just and the unjust. Hardly has he finished, and the king falls down dead. You see, says the fisherman to Sakir the Jinni, that if the king Yunnan had allowed the doctor to live, God would have preserved him. But he refused, wanted to kill him, and God made him die.
Julian Assange, whistleblower. Had he as many faults as I have fingers, I still would sing his praises because of everything he has unearthed and the questions he raises, which ought to have been asked even without him, but were not. Though some liked things thus, and thus disliked him, others were undeceived. People, that is, such as us. One day a town will be named after him, or else a pretty park where children are cared for, but not surveilled, even when it grows dark.
Quatrains for Julian Assange. This is your word, here's your cover, reveal it to no one, not your lover. Whatever your amatory cape is, this must never reach the papers. Since what we do is for forgetting, in circumstances beyond regretting, your obligation has a function you must obey without compunction. Your conscience is for us to manage. We are bound
as if by civil marriage, from which there can be no divorcing, no sly affairs, and no outsourcing. There is, as ever, the us, the you, the them, though you may switch the terms around, depending on where you or your heart lie. We're not on the wrong side, said one voice in the Vietnam War. We are the wrong side. Where there are secrets, there are lies for one or other to construe. And if we can pin down a lie, what else remains must then be true. Since where you stand is where you are, and where you stand is therefore you. Where words are spoken, they must be followed by silence, as by trust. A confidence is what is sealed, whatever you consider just. Our secrets are not your affair. You'll keep them close, because you must. People in their budding youth seek to establish higher truth than that provided by the state, or interests with greater weight, and military set in train by some electronic brain, or shady men in smoke-filled rooms. Come sweep the cobwebs with new brooms. There are demons in the cupboard, as there always are, but whose cupboards are these? There's no need to look far. They're here at hand, they're ours. Our mischief squats inside those doors. Open them now, before they shut. The keys are yours. There are armies and recruiters in wars without a name, and warriors at computers desperate for a game. There are agents and between men, there are fall guys, there are screen men. Seeking for refuge against sundry harms, then you must find it in a stranger's arms. Your hair and nails grow long like Howard Hughes, while half the world outside declares Jacques Hughes. Outside the fields stretch out, the view is of a world whose loyalties are dark, whose flags are furled, whose arsenals increase by secret trade, and treaties that are signed remain unmade. Dilemmas are set out in formal terms. The conscience is alert, the leader squirms. The prison waits, the hours are made of glass, and break above your head just as you pass. The windows are spread wide, the flunkies glare, but here at last you're breathing burning air. So Julian Assange has set birds flying. Meanwhile the game goes on, still lying.
To Whom It May Concern by Adrian Mitchell.
I was run over by the truth one day. Ever since the accident I've walked this way. So stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam.
Heard the alarm clock screaming with pain. Couldn't find myself, so I went back to sleep again. So fill my ears with silver. Stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam.
Every time I shut my eyes, all I see is flames. Made a marble phone book and I carved all the names. So coat my eyes with butter. Fill my ears with silver. Stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam.
I smell something burning. Hope it's just my brains. They're only dropping peppermints in daisy chains. So stuff my nose with garlic. Coat my eyes with butter. Fill my ears with silver. Stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam.
Where were you at the time of the crime? Down by the cenotaph drinking slime. So chain my tongue with whiskey. Stuff my nose with garlic. Coat my eyes with butter. Fill my ears with silver. Stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies about Vietnam.
You put your bombers in and you put your conscience out. You take the human being and you twist it all about. So scrub my skin with women. Chain my tongue with whiskey. Stuff my nose with garlic, coat my eyes with butter, fill my ears with silver, stick my legs in plaster. Tell me lies. Tell me lies about Afghanistan. Tell me lies about Israel. Tell me lies about Congo. Tell me. Tell me lies, Mr. Bush. Tell me lies, Mr. Blair. Tell me lies about Iraq.
Please don't only enjoy this evening, I hope you do, but remember this story is still alive, so keep telling it. Thank you very much.